Hey everybody, this is Clayton coming back with a brand new episode. In this week's episode, I really want to focus on the Dow Jones breaking 27,000, M1 Finance raising $33 million in funding, and some new features that's going to be coming their way. And Jim Cramer recently has been talking about how he thinks people are playing games with the stock market, and I really want to kind of go over and touch on that. But before we dive into anything, I really want to thank everyone who has watched any of my videos as far as supported me. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. I am very active on Twitter, on YouTube comments, Gmail if you need me. Those will all be in the description below, and obviously I'll link them at the end as well. But I really want to thank everybody for watching. But now let's really delve into this video because it's a packed video in my opinion. So I want to dive into it. So as of right now, I'm filming this on Wednesday. It's the middle of the afternoon. It's 1:50. We are sitting the Dow at 27,151. It's gone down the last few days. It topped out on Monday, 27.5. So it's come down about 300. What's the exact percentage? About 400 since then. But on Friday is when we had the jobs report. And on that jobs report, we saw that 2.5 million jobs had returned in the United States. And with that news, as we can see on the market, this was when the market closed on Thursday. So when the market closed on Friday, it went up 822 points, which is a total of 3.3%, all mainly off of just that news. It's good news for the country. I think it's a little misleading because it's a lot of people that were furloughed or temporarily terminated. Unfortunately, and some of you that are watching this may be a part of this, there have been a lot of people that have permanently lost their jobs, and they are now looking for work. I work as an HR director at my company, and I have seen firsthand how this has affected people. And how many applications we've gotten recently is more than I've ever seen in my entire time of working for my company. So it doesn't surprise me that it's affecting so many people. It does surprise me that the market jumps so dramatically. But people were looking for any sign of good news. And the market was already on its way up, even after, as we've covered, every week more and more bad news came out. The market, they always say, is a future predictor. But unfortunately, I'm not sure if we're at the point where we should look back to, let me pull up 6 months ago. It's hard for me to imagine that we are sitting as an economy essentially where we were back in December. It's just hard for me to fathom that, because you ask anybody else what's going on with just in general, that we're not there yet. And I really hope that this isn't people playing into the market, playing games with the market, which I'm really going to focus on later in this video and kind of go over. But it wouldn't surprise me. So as I do with every video, I just want to kind of touch on my portfolio. I'm sitting at, we got $40 in dividends now paid out. This last week, we had a few more dividends paid out. We had our buys. We got about 10 stocks. Obviously, all ones I really like. So if you care to follow my stock, I always link it in the description below, and you can see exactly what I'm invested in, my percentages and everything like that. But the market itself kind of makes me hesitant, nervous, because I don't truly know what's going to happen. But you know what I'm going to say if you've watched my channel for any length of time. This is why a dollar cost average. I'm going to say it 1,000 times more and 1,000 times in the past. This is why people that try to time the market, sadly, tend to fail. And why I believe so heavily in dollar cost averaging, which I will link in the top right corner. I made a whole video about this with examples as to why this tends to be the best strategy, in my opinion, especially. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just touch on the Dow and how it's already broke 27,000 so quickly. It really is mind-boggling. I didn't expect to be back this fast. The only person that really did was the president. And he may be right on this. We'll know as time goes on, obviously, as the market starts to settle. If we have the Backstreet Boys come back, as I've heard people using the term for what's going on, it's the Backstreet Boys. So if the Backstreet Boys are back a second time, we'll see how this market does. But right now, it's good to see that it's back up to 27,000. Now, as someone who uses M1 Finance, I really wanted to touch on this just in general. So it was announced on the 10th, which is today, that they raised $33 million in funding. And this was, at total, before that, they'd only raised 21.5 previously. So first off, that 33 million is dramatic. But they kind of touch upon what they want to focus that money on and what they're looking to strive in the future. And I want to pull that up. But one thing I did want to talk about before I dive into what they're going to do for the future. So for this funding, As you can see right here, I'll highlight it. This funding is another milestone in an already strong year for M1. In February, M1 became one of the few fintech startups to reach $1 billion in customer assets and have added more than $650 million in customer deposits in 2020. With the 21.5 million in funding prior to this round, M1 reached the 1 billion AUM threshold faster and far less funding than many of the fintech peers. So M1, for people that are nervous on them or skeptical, they have shot up quickly, and they're doing well, as you can see by the funding they just raised yesterday, which has been kind of addressed today in their article. So if you're not with M1, I highly recommend them. I'm not posting a link or saying, oh, I'm affiliated with M1 and you can get a benefit by signing up here. That's not what I'm doing. I use M1. I like them. I think it's easy for me. It makes investing simple, in my personal opinion. And if you have any M1 questions, I've already got 2 videos that I've put out on basic questions that I've come across through people through Twitter and YouTube, and my Gmail account that I've asked. I've created 2 about moving pies and creating pies. I gladly will make or answer any questions you have about M1. And if I don't know it, I'll tell you honestly so you can go ask. But back into the M1 financing, they talk about it. Says, without getting into too many product specifics, we plan for the following. And their plans include more and higher quality information on stocks, ETFs, and the general market, so you can do better evaluate and monitor your investments, which is nice to have on the service. I obviously, as we've gone over before in the past, I use Seeking Alpha and other sources, but it doesn't hurt for them to put their own resources in as well. Alternatives for you to borrow money, always striving for flexibility and lower rates. This doesn't apply to me directly, but I do know people personally that like to borrow money from them. It's just not something, I don't like to be in debt, so that's kind of where I stand with that. Analysis on where your money is spent and ways to cut back if saving more is your goal. So there are plenty of apps out there that already do this. Mint is one that I've used in the past. And if anyone were to initiate this, I don't find it to be a negative or positive. I don't know if it brings any users to the platform. Maybe it will, because it's an easy way to see what you're saving, and maybe they'll have some system where you saved this much money, you can invest it here, or invest it on our site some way. Maybe they'll incorporate like an auto invest feature of what you've saved. Like you put in your bills and you've saved, if you have a goal for the week, for the month, and if you don't hit that goal, they'll invest the rest into your account. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Additional automation across the platform. Really curious to see what that means and what they're going to do with that. Content that will make you think and aspire to become a smarter investor. I'm assuming that's probably just going to be more articles, maybe some video, but I don't really know what that means. Improved usability and enjoyability for the platform. If we can get the ability to move stocks, sorry, I'm clapping my hands. If we can get the ability to move stocks from pie to pie, that would be fantastic. Maybe I'm assuming there's some technical reason why they can't do that, because it just seems like such an easy fix. But I don't know the coding of M1 Finance, and I don't know how it comes to legally what they are or not able to do when it comes to that. Maybe there's a reason they aren't able to make it so simple, and you have to pause trading, as I've gone over in the video. Now it's going to be linked in the top right corner. But I really hope that that's something they implement, because all I ever hear from people that use M1, the skeptics or the people that don't like them, is that it adds extra steps that aren't necessary. It makes things more difficult. I don't personally agree with that. I can see where the complaint comes from. Like I said, I really like M1. I have had no problems with them. Next is better communication through every touch point with M1. For me, when I've spoken to them, they're really good communication-wise, and the few times I have had to reach out. I don't know if they have a direct number. I've never actually spoken to someone on the phone. It's usually through email. But the chat goes pretty well and pretty quickly, as you've seen when me showing previous emails. But I like how their support works. I like how it seems like they're there when I need them, especially during trading time. So I don't know. It's interesting to see what that means, what additional communications will come through. And then the other one is expanding our team to help us with these improvements. That doesn't surprise me. Obviously, as this continues to grow, they're going to need more and more people for support, for technical support, for the back end, just things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what M1 does with this $33 million. I think they're just going to continue to keep growing. And I really am excited to kind of just see, I guess, be along with them for the ride. I'm not invested with them, or I'm not linked to them, or I have no affiliation with them besides they're a broker that I use. So I have no real benefit besides ease of use, possibly for me. Past that, there's no other incentive for me. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. And finally, as I touched upon in the beginning of this video, I really want to touch on Jim Cramer. There's 2 videos on CNBC, or I don't even remember which one it was. Sorry if I'm bashing which company it was. But basically, he has two videos that were put out, and they address what he deems as playing games with the stocks, and that's bumping up the price of the stocks. And I'll let him speak for himself.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a couple of services out there, and I'm not going to particularly name anyone. I've some very nice people that have been very good at running stocks. Now, running stocks is something that, of course, is illegal. That there used to be, the SEC used to look into these things and say, okay, well, is someone doing a pump and dump scheme? What is someone doing here? I don't find that to be the SEC as active as they used to be, and things like that. But you do have people running stocks, and it's kind of like confessions of a street. Well, when I talk about confessions of a street, in my first book, I talk about this when I see these people doing these things, which is that they pick a stock and they run it for the day, and how horrible it is that they do that, because you never know when they're going to be done. And they catch people. I was talking about last time. They bag people, they gun the stock, and then they liquidate the stock into the people that they've gunned it to. And it's a process that is even made worse by Twitter. I mean, Twitter's got guys bagging, gunning, and BGL, bagging, gunning, and liquidating everywhere. And so you got to be really careful. I mean, there's a lot of people playing games right now. The most I've ever seen, I'm sure Dave would say too, I've never seen so many games played with stocks, which is that, hey, we're taking this one up today. We're taking that one up today. They used to do that in Japan in 89 and 90, and we know how that ended. So please be careful when you see a reference in Twitter which says we're taking up Hertz, or get on board the Chesapeake train, because you're not going to be the one who makes the big money. You're going to likely be the one who loses the big money. And I just want to warn people. Yeah. I know, Carl, people will hate me for doing what I just said, but, people have hated me for a lot of things. So let's just add that.
So, like Cramer was talking about there, talking about running up the stocks and playing with the stocks, I don't disagree with him. Just from being on Twitter for a short while, specifically in the financial aspect of Twitter, I have seen so many people talk about, this is a stock to buy today, or buy this stock now, or buy this, and beef up that stock, especially if it's a smaller stock, and then that stock gets sold off. And I really hope that anyone that's listening to this channel knows, and I've said it repeatedly, please, please, please do your own research on anything you invest in. Even if it's something I'm asking you or telling you that I like, don't just buy it. Go on your portfolio on whatever you're using, this, Robinhood, there's so many. Just please do your own research before you buy. Make sure you completely understand what you're buying into and why you're buying into it. This is one of the reasons why I like dividend investing, because I'm not trying to catch those as they're on their way up. It's more just a hold for the long term. But if you aren't a dividend investor, that's fine. Just be careful, because there's so many people with social media nowadays that are trying to just pump stocks in and make them valued at so much more so they can just get an easy profit off of this. And all it does to the person that's along for the ride is cost them money in the end, because they basically were dragged through the mud on this one, gave somebody else some cash, and thanks, have a great day. So that's one video he talks about it, and he kind of touched upon it again. I really want to give him one last chance.
Hey, Jim, watching what the market's doing today, seeing Boeing really driving things higher once again this morning after all the gains it experienced last week. It was up 40% last week. Looks like it was up about 8 to 9% just this morning once again. Seeing moves of 20 to 25% in some of these energy names that are out there. I just wonder, would you tell people to go with the flow at this point, or does the momentum worry you given how fast and far some of these gains have come?
I would like to say the momentum worries me, but I was listening to Stan Druckenmiller, and I think that there's something going on that is hard to reconcile. These are morning moves. People placing bets basically in the morning, and then there you go. The stocks run, and sellers don't come out, and I think that that's what's confusing people. That I happen to, for instance, like Norwegian Cruise Lines very much, and it's something I speak about with Frank Del Rio. But the stock is just, it's on a tear, but it's on a tear between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock. It's almost as if people are saying, okay, listen, this is the one we're going to take up today. Now, that's not, it's a medium size. Boeing, it's hard to manipulate up, but it does seem, why get the jump on Boeing? Why go in like that? Maybe because of the numbers that Phil talked about? Or is there something going on? Are there people just gunning stocks? And then not finding any resistance, as if the sellers have decided to take a holiday. And Becky, the airlines have all been gunned since they priced that Warren Buffett sold them. Now, of course, they've gotten some money from the government, but this is very unnatural buying. And I work very hard to try to figure out the unnatural buying, but it's in cruise ships, it's in oils, and it's in airlines. And cruise ships and airlines seem almost manipulated up before the market opens. It's very strange. Never seen it.
It's weird, Jim, just in terms of what you're saying. Like, if you wanted to sell this stock, you probably sold it long ago.
Yes.
So you mentioned that there's no sellers stepping in to say, okay, we'll give it back to you at this point.
Well, they took on a lot of debt. The
If
government
you
took
had
a
concerns,
lot
you
of
were
stock.
out.
I mean, the government should be blowing out all of its stock. I mean, I've been calculating how much the government's made. It seemed fanciful when they did the investments, but I'm going to try to get a hold of Treasury today and say to Secretary Mnuchin, look, I think it's time. Don't avail yourself of this rally, because if there's any downturn, any COVID, I mean, COVID hasn't gone away, but these stocks trade that it has. And we know that American was very bullish about the fact that they might be able to do 55% of last year. But does that mean that American should go back to where it was before the pandemic? So I'm watching these stocks and saying, where are the sellers? Evercore had an American price tag of $1 a couple months ago. $1. And the other stocks that are being, I think, gunned up, so to speak, are Hertz and Luckin Coffee. Now, I don't know what they're worth, but neither does anyone else. But I'll tell you what they're not worth, what they're being gunned for. Now, this is a process that I've seen maybe in the 80s, that you could gun stocks that may not exist coming through this period, but it's happening. And I do wish some sellers would take advantage of it, because these prices for Hertz and Luckin may not last.
So as Cramer talked about, and I don't want to say I am or I'm not a Cramer fan. It's whatever. I don't mind his opinion. I always like to see different people's opinion when it comes to the market. I can see what he's talking about, especially with specific stocks. Hertz is a good example, where the value has just skyrocketed for no apparent reason. Hertz filed for bankruptcy. There's no reason for their value to be increasing the way it is. Airlines, same way. The flights haven't really changed much. Yes, people are flying a little bit more, but the way that the airlines have bounced back so quickly, it could very well be that people just trust that the market's on its way back. And of course, he said the word I'm not going to say on here. Thanks, Jim. Really hope that doesn't affect the algorithm. Actually, you know what? Because it might. If you don't mind giving this video a like, I would greatly appreciate it, because Jimmy Boy might have just hurt my algorithm chances with that one. So, you know what, if you don't want to, that's fine as well. But I can easily see why he would think that, especially someone that's followed the market for a long time. Because it's just not making sense. And anyone that can tell you with a straight face that they know what's going to happen in this market, and I sound like a broken record, has no idea. They don't. They want it to do well. President Trump doesn't know the market was going to bounce back this fast. He wants it to. He wanted to. It's going to help in November, but he doesn't know. None of the Treasury Secretary, don't know why that word was so hard, doesn't know. It's just assumptions, and nothing really has changed all that much, besides we're opening up more and more states are. Obviously, we've got what's going on right now with the protests, and I really do hope that everybody stays safe. And I just want to say right off the bat, I know this is the end of the video, but if you're still around, I hope that everyone that has been affected by this understands that this is a time for change. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. This is my opinion. I've known too many people that have dealt with this personally, and I've reached out and spoken with them and done what I can to help. But I'm just a 6'3", 290-pound, just white guy. So I can't speak for what they're speaking of. That's why I'm listening and not trying to go out there and say what is right and wrong, because I don't know. So I'm not trying to make this. I've said for months now I'm not making this channel political, and I'm not. Just with what's going on, there's so much going on in the world right now, especially just with that situation, that I really want to say that I'm here to listen, and I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't know what we can do to fix this, but something needs to change, and I truly, truly hope it does. So, with that being said, if you're still around, which there might be like one or two of you, I'd love to know in the comments who's actually made it to the end of this video. It'd be kind of cool to see. I'd be shocked if I get 3 comments that say I made it to the end. Please feel free to like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, as I said earlier, subscribe to this channel. It really helps the growth. I'm sitting at, I think, 220 now, or 225, 226. I really appreciate all the feedback. I love the interaction with you guys on Twitter, email, YouTube. It really does make my day, my week. I'd like to be putting content out more, but with my job, I just don't have the time. But I really, really want to thank all of you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great evening, and y'all come back now, you hear?